Welcome back. I'm Wavepunk, and this is week 55 of the Producer Diaries. I have two different projects to show you this week. Both are kind of small little demo type pieces, but I think they're pretty cool. There's some fun ones here. This first one is a flip of a sound from, or a sample from Googly Eyes. Googly Eyes, a producer, also goes by Deza, but I think the artist name at this point is Googly Eyes. They posted the stems on their Instagram story and were like, EDM producers, come and produce this for me. And I kind of came up with two different ideas. I can show you the second idea after I show you this one, but this was the one I liked the most, the one I ran with, and I ended up posting, and they reposted on their story, and it got some views and stuff on Instagram, which was fun. So you can go check out my Instagram if you want to see that video. But I'm about to make it for you again here. This is the idea. Tell me what you think.
You're my favorite feeling. My favorite feeling. You're my favorite feeling. Won't you love me like you do? You're my favorite feeling. My favorite feeling. You're my favorite feeling. Won't you love me like you do? You're my favorite feeling.
Fun. There's a couple things here I've never done before that I was excited to discover. The first one is that snare in the back half here. This guy. Very tonal snare, and it very literally is a tonal sound. This is a sample I got off of Splice that then I put a shaper box on top of and put some faders and stuff on. This is what it sounded like after I kind of like faded it out. Just a little, just the opening note of like kind of a computery effect sound. Put a fade on it, put shaper box on it with some noise, and that just white noise. Those two things combined to make kind of a snary sound. It's not really snary, but you know, when you listen to it in the context of all the other percussion, it's pretty. It fills in that spot. The sub is kind of interesting too here, because it's not actually that subby. If we look at it in the span here, I mean, it's like its peak is like 117, but like, you know, the fundamental of the lowest pitch is not actually the loudest of these peaks. That's because this sound is a square wave, kind of this notched over pulse wave, and it filled in a different way, and this is something I've started to experiment with. You'll see in kind of the second project is experimenting with different types of subs, not just going with just the sine wave, which gives you that really nice warm low end, but just doesn't come across in anything else. And in the next project I'll show you, we do a bit of like kind of blending the two, but there's a chance you could make an argument it's not even technically a sub at that point. There's no actual bass happening, but this sound is just the synth from earlier, but chopped up with some filter stuff going on and some time shaper stuff going on, and then some saturation on top of it, and those two things combined to make kind of a fun. That all kind of gels in together in a really nice and satisfying way. The vocal came, this vocal here is almost unflipped. This is, I put it at the exact same place or tempo and key that Googly Eyes originally had it in. Put a low cut on it and some dimension expander.
You're
but
my favorite feeling.
This is how it came.
My favorite feeling.
So she'd already done a lot of vocal processing on it there, and then I put a low cut and dimension expander on it to.
You're my favorite feeling.
Well, actually, the dimension expander I'm pretty sure I have fading in, so it starts out completely down, and then by the end we have it more up to.
Love me like you do. You're my favorite.
And I cut the dimension extender back out for that solo vocal there. So cool little project here. This one was fun. I'll show you the other variation on this idea. You guys originally in her post said she wanted it to sound. She's like give me like 2012 Zed clarity, big kind of anthemic, major, happy, hopeful EDM vibe. So I was trying to make that. I didn't like this because I don't think I got very close. At first, it's kind of cool though. So here's this one.
You're my favorite feeling, my favorite feeling. You're my favorite feeling. Won't you love me like you do? You're my favorite feeling, my favorite feeling. You're my favorite feeling. Won't you love me like you do? You're my favorite feeling. You're my favorite feeling. You're my favorite.
There's individual things about that I really, really like. I think the beginning is really strong. I really like this sound. And it's incredibly simple. There's no effects. It's just a sine wave that is slowly is growing in detune. It's 16 voices that slowly as it goes starts to get wider. Until at the end here it's kind of like ringing around in your ears. That's a cool sound. I like these little guys were cool too. I never really got them to gel well. These are all sounds I made from scratch, which were fun. I think I needed to have them start kind of like a high cut sound, like wow, instead of just wow. I think that would maybe made them feel a little bit better, but I kind of gave up on this idea before I finished that one there. The back half is cool, but it's like, I don't know, there's like no punch to it. The kick, I really, like, if you go and listen to like Clarity by Zed, the kick is very in kind of like the drop section is very, very dull. It doesn't have a lot of punch to it. And so I was trying to like take a kick that wasn't super heavy on the low end. But I don't know. It was a little bit just like too much of a wall of sound. And it's funny, like listening back to it now, it's not as bad as I thought it was. I probably could have put this one out instead of that one. I still could actually. Like this little lead. Square chords. This one is actually a preset, I believe. I didn't make this one. It was cool to see how they built that sound, or whichever person made that one, and then this is the sub. But that's a normal sine wave sub, not a creative sub like the other one. So, but yes, there was another thing I made this week. This guy here, which is two different. This is the same thing twice. So I'm just gonna play you one half of it here. I use this as another like sandbox to work on drum and bass design here. I made a few different ideas, none of them which I love, but it's a cool sound by itself. We're doing everything kind of the same way we did in previous times, where we just put a macro knob on like a whole bunch of different parameters here. This is the phase, the FM from this saw wave I'm FMing from for some reason. I just realized this one's down an octave, this one's up an octave, despite it being panned left and right. Actually, no, I remember I did this on purpose because I was messing around with an oscilloscope and kind of seeing like what sounds made things go different directions and stuff like that, and having sounds separated by an octave and then pan different directions. Surprisingly, it doesn't create an effect that sounds particularly like, it's not like you hear one all the way in the left, the other one all the way in the right, even though they kind of are all the way in the left and the right. It was something interesting I learned by playing around with oscilloscopes and just making sounds. But we're using the same sort of like virtual riot technique here of making it a wide wave by having a wave that's half square, half saw, and then doing the two different sound, and then have it be like in different phases here, and then panned in different directions. So when it does that sound, this is moving the pans. It's also moving the FM. It's also moving the phaser. That filter positioning. So lots of different parameters here being affected by here, and then we just played in an envelope for that macro, and it creates a lot of cool sounds all over the place, where you get very, very different sounds depending on where you play it. But it also makes a lot of, like, it's very unruly, and I wasn't able to quite tame it despite stacking a whole bunch of effects on top of it. OTT actually really made it worse. I don't remember. This was very... a lot of these was like, okay, I made it through the sound. It was cool, but it wasn't actually... It still wasn't good. Let's just re-rack, reload, try again. These are the two bases that were good enough to make it through... to like be in the project here at the end. The sub over here I think was actually pretty cool. If I turn off the basses, you'll hear it more clearly. The handoff is pretty fun there, and the sub is two different subs here. One is that same sort of like square wave idea from the previous one, but with a dun 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 put on top of it here, so it's not I'm not playing in the it's just hitting the level there, and then doing the same thing over with a sine wave, kind of mixing the two in there. So I spent a lot of time in this project looking at the Shaper Box oscilloscope. And like just like soloing this sound, the sub here, and like trying to like watch the way that like when I mute the sine wave, how it changes. So there's a freeze. Yeah, you can see like how strong these peaks are, and then when I turn this off, they're just it's a slower. When I turn the sine wave back on, it kind of like mellows out those peaks. So looking at that and trying to figure out like how to, I was using different shaper boxes to like shape sounds, carving out for some reason this little peak here was getting the shaper box side chain up here, which is set to chop out the drums. For some reason the snare hits weren't perfectly catching. They're only like happening. I mean, if I go look at them here, yeah, you can see that like it cuts the snare off here instead of here. When it starts to make the snare, as it gets to this point here, will peak and actually trigger the side chain volume shaper there, which means that the original of the sound right here was getting through, and it was causing some peaking on the master, which is still happening here. But I spent a lot of time looking at this, trying to understand what is actually peaking here. You saw one up there, and it was just like very random peaks. I'm slowly learning to not be as afraid when that says that that's red, and to like actually pull up the oscilloscope and look at like what is actually happening that's making it peak out there, So I liked this idea. I put it on some social media with a improvised solo that I then recorded afterwards. So yeah, those are the projects I worked on this week. Slowly getting better, slowly learning different things, and hopefully making more little chunks like this, little cool musical ideas like this, into like reels and shorts and TikToks, and hopefully people will go and listen to it. That's all we had for week 55. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.